king said, Nehemiah, go and build that city back. He made me its ruling governor, and of money I had no lack. So with soldiers all around me that were there at my command, I left Babylon rejoicing, gonna see the promised land.
Welcome, my name is Pastor Justin Morris with the Pentecostal Evangelical Church, and I want to welcome to you today. The song that you heard was called Nehemiah's Song, and it was done by Don Francisco, which is interesting because yesterday we had a song by Wendy Francisco, and I'm just kind of wondering if they're two, if those two are related in any ways. But great song. And today we are studying Nehemiah, and I wanted to talk about our prayer request real quick. And I'm pretty excited because somebody did use my email and send me a request. And if you are interested at all in sending your prayer requests in, definitely do it. And you can see the email here on the website. Yesterday I had Share Bright Light, which I subscribe to her. She has 330 subscribers, and they share some amazing studies. And she reached out on my channel and said she needed healing in her back. Now, she's done what she's supposed to. She's gone to the doctors. They say there is nothing they can do for her. And like Nehemiah, I like to pray for people. He was a strong prayer warrior. And I don't spend a ton of time in prayer, but I pray every single day. And so I just pray in the name of Jesus that your back is completely healed and that God will do a mighty work there, okay? And I want you guys to be praying. Just say a quick prayer for her. You know, she doesn't ask a lot. She gives a whole lot. And I'm just asking you to pray for her right now. I also want to pray for a guy. He's an evangelist. He emailed me today. His name is Gabriel, and he's from Nigeria, and his church is going through a financial difficulty, not the building itself, but the people in it, and through this whole time. And so I don't know anything about him, but other than they're going through a financial time, and he was asking us for assistance, but we have been giving money to our people in Africa and South Africa and the Philippines and Romania, all of our ministers there and our churches there. So we can't do everything, but what I can do is I can pray that the Lord will bring him financial relief in some way, somehow. And so let's just be praying about that, okay? I also want to reach out a hand to my wife. She's been going through a throat issue. She's already been checked. She doesn't have the coronavirus. And she got antibiotics, and she's feeling better today, but just continue to pray that God will completely heal that, okay? Awesome. I love prayer. It works, okay? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go into the book of the 100. If you've got your book, page 48, I believe. Let's look real quick. Yeah, 48, I got it right. That's Nehemiah. And we're going to go into the Hebrew word, which means Yahweh comfort. And it's derived from Nacham, meaning to comfort, and Yah, referring to the Hebrew God, or El. Okay, but this one is Yah. But sometimes El, it refers to that as well. I love to do Greek and Hebrew, if you didn't know that. Okay? Hey, I got a fun fact about Nehemiah. Something I found this morning. As I was getting ready to prepare the study, I always like to dig in a little deeper and find out different things, as you know. And according to many websites, including JewishVirtualLibrary.org, now I'm not Jewish, but it went along with everybody else, and I like to use different things and or different resources to look up. And what was neat about what I found, a fun fact, is Ezra and Nehemiah were originally just one book written by the same person. And the Masoretic tradition regarded the books Ezra and Nehemiah as one book, and it was called the Book of Ezra. And then the divisions into the separate books doesn't happen until the time of origin, which was the 4th century AD. And when they divided this, they called it at that time First Esdras, which is Ezra, Second Esdras, which was Nehemiah. And then it wasn't until the 15th century that the Hebrew manuscripts and the modern printed, they started to divide these books. And we know that, when King James came out with his version in 1611, okay? So, which was kind of what they call a space race at that time, because there was other people trying to put together the Bible in a book form and be the first to do it. And King James just happened to come out with it first. And so there's different speculations on who he was, and was he actually a God-fearing man, or was he just after a buck? And so I don't know, but we do know that the Gutenberg Bible was the very first book ever written as far as put in a book form, and it's just fun facts. Okay, cool. All right, now let's go back to Nehemiah. His father was Heklah, and I couldn't find anything about his mother, and he was born in 480 BC, like Ezra was. All right, just happened to be. He is the writer. Nehemiah is the writer of the book of Nehemiah, and he starts off a story with asking King Artaxerxes if he can go back and rebuild the wall in Jerusalem. He'd already talked to King Cyrus about it, and he said no, and then he dies, and King Artaxerxes comes along, and he asks, and he gives him thumbs up, okay? And so let's find it first. Let's kind of go backwards a little bit, and let's look in 2 Chronicles chapter 36, verses 1 through 23. And the reason why I'm doing that is you may be watching this for the first time and say, well, what happened to Jerusalem? Why was it destroyed, and why does he have to rebuild the wall? Okay. Well, if we go in 2 Chronicles chapter 36, I'm going to paraphrase these verses. Verses 1 through 4, Jehoahaz becomes king and in Jerusalem, and he only reigns for 3 months because he does evil in the sight of the Lord. He doesn't lead the people into serving the Lord. And then he's pulled out of the position. His brother is put in, becomes king, and he does a crappy job. And then the king pulls him out and takes him off to Egypt. Okay. Then verses 5 through 8, Jeroboam becomes king, and he's king actually 11 years, but he does evil in the sight of the Lord. And here comes Nebuchadnezzar, fought against him, and takes him off to Babylon. Okay, so, remember Nebuchadnezzar, God's servant, whether he knew it or not, okay? So let's read that. Verse 7, Nebuchadnezzar also carried off some articles from the house of the Lord to Babylon and put them in his temple at Babylon. All right? Well, then verses 9 and 10, Jehoiachin becomes king, and he only lasts 3 months and 10 days, and he does evil in the sight of the Lord. Here comes Nebuchadnezzar. He captures him, goes off back to Babylon, and he takes some costly articles from the house of the Lord. I mean, this time he steps up his game, okay? Then verses 11 through 21, Zedekiah becomes king, and he reigns for 11 years. And what does he do? He does evil in the sight of the Lord. And this is it. God's fed up with this, and he sends the prophet Jeremiah, and he will not humble himself. The king will not humble himself. He does not listen to Jeremiah. Neither does the people. The people of the city actually mock him as well. And then the Lord brings wrath against them because there is just no remedy to this. All right? And it says in verse 19, then they burned the house of God, broke down the wall of Jerusalem, burned all its palaces with fire, and destroyed all its precious possessions. So that all happened. So King Artaxerxes gives Nehemiah permission to go and build the wall. Now, if you remember anything about this story, there's people that doesn't want the wall built around Jerusalem because they were afraid nobody would pay taxes. Okay, it'd be like its own sanctuary. They didn't have to pay taxes. They didn't have to pay any alms to the king. Well, that went out by the wayside. When they got there and they started building in chapter 2, verses 19 through 20, there's 3 people that laughed at him. Okay, there was Sanballat, the Hornite, Hortonite, yeah, I think, Tubin, the Amorite official, and Geshem, the Arab, and they laughed about this when they heard about it. And in verse 20, he defends himself by saying, "So I answered them and said to them, the God of heaven himself will prosper us. Therefore, we his servants will arise and build, but you have no heritage or right or memorial in Jerusalem." You can kind of imagine what they were feeling at that point. Like, yeah, whatever, buddy. Okay. Well, in chapter 3, it talks all about the entire chapter of different people having different jobs as far as building this wall. Okay, a fish gate, a sheep gate, or a goat gate, all different types of parts of this, and the doors just all different types. They actually get specific when they start dealing with how they're building the wall. In chapter 4, their enemies plot go against them, but God protects them. And I like what verse 15 says in chapter 4. It says, "And it happened when all our enemies heard that it was known to us and that God had brought their plot to nothing, that all of us returned to the wall, everyone to his work." Okay, so everyone had a job here, all right? And so when all this happened, Nehemiah's like, that's it. This is the way we're going to do this from here on out. Half the people are going to guard. You're going to have spears, you're going to have bow and arrows, you're going to have your machetes, you're going to have your shield, you're going to have your claymore mines, your AR-15. Well, maybe not those things. But then he's going to have some weapons to protect. The other half, you're going to do the work, okay? And so this was in verse 16. Then they worked really hard and they dealt with all this persecution. They got this thing done. This wall was completed in chapter 7. And then at that point, during that chapter, they set up temple staff to deal with the daily comes and goings of things and the daily business that happened in the temple. And I'm not talking about, changing money and things like that. I'm just the things that normally would go on. He had a staff for that. In chapter 8, Ezra the priest brought the book of Revelation of Moses that God had commanded for them, for Israel, and they read to the people facing the town, and they did this from chapters 8 through 13. All right, and that's a really good read. All right, if you ever get the chance to sit down and go through it slowly, not fast, you might miss something. It's a good read. Okay. That's about all I've got today, but I'm going to tell you one thing. Nehemiah was definitely a prayer warrior, and that's what I'm trying to do is get more into prayer every single day. And when I write my prayer requests down and put them in my book, then it's stuck in my head, and I keep those people in my prayers, okay? And so, Nehemiah kept his faith strong, even when facing death, because these armies... I didn't go into deep detail today, but they came after these people for building this wall, and they stood strong, and God was with them, all right? So when you need something that you know is going to be in the Lord's will, talk to him, and he's on your side, all right? Hey, have a great day, and we'll talk to you later.
Shout with joy to God, everybody make glorious his praise. Say to him, how awesome are your works. How great and irresistible your power. How beautiful, how glorious is your name. Hey, shout with joy to God, everybody sing hallelujah. Shout with joy to God, everybody make glorious his praise. Shout with joy to God, everybody sing hallelujah. Shout with joy to God, everybody make glorious his praise.